This is the Croptimize Hedge Report for the week ending September 3rd, 2021. Pretty quiet week in the markets despite the extreme weather events. Q, what's the latest on our grain hedging positions?
What we're seeing is we had no changes this week because the relatively flat prices. We remained 83.3% for corn and beans in the hedge, 50% for Chicago wheat, 42% roughly for Kansas City, and then 32% for spring wheat. It continues to run. It continues to show signs of just not giving up out there. Hurricane Ida came. Looked like it was going to have a direct hit on New Orleans. It missed. Went west. I thought this is going to get good because if it hit west of New Orleans and then turned, into the hard wheat belt, that's how you break enormous droughts is hurricanes coming through and just dropping tons of rain out there in the prairies. Especially just before we're planting new crop in spring wheat, which is coming up. In hard wheat, it's coming up at just any time now for plantings. What has happened though is that the Cargill elevator at the Gulf is closed. It got hit, direct hit. It's down for indeterminate amount now. So it's 9% of all exports.
Okay.
Grain, wheat, grains, all grains. 9% of all grains go through that Cargill elevator. So. They're working it out. Of course, they're finding barges up and down the river, so it's going to take them a couple days to get it sorted out. However, what that means is that everything's backed up, and the basis has collapsed out here as everybody's just waiting for, because there's just no bid at the Gulf to suck grain down the Mississippi River. Having said that, the SEP-DESAs and the DESA marches have all moved out. We're going to take advantage of that on the hedge model, so keep your eyes posted. We're going to be rolling to March this weekend.
Okay.
So we've had, I would say, relatively strong spreads that have gone, out, 85% full carry. We're just going to take it, roll, close our eyes, especially with China being the wild card it is here for the new crop.
Okay. So, and then with the hedging, now that we're getting close to harvest for corn and beans, paying close attention to what you're thinking for yield and stuff like that for end of season.
Yeah. They're sniffing in at 176, 177 for corn, 50-51 for beans. That's still higher than what the USDA had out for WASDE. So we'll be watching WASDE come out on, I think it's the 10th. So it's really watching that, and it's at least a full bushel to 2 bushels over the USDA number. The other story is that we think there's another 1.5 million acres out there, which I've been saying all along.
Yeah.
And, the USDA just won't admit they're out there. But we'll see soon enough once the grain starts hitting the elevators and we see the actual numbers. So also we're seeing the first numbers for next year, 94 plus million acres of corn, 91 million acres of beans, and 49.7 for wheat. So, they are going fence row to fence row on this stuff, which the market's been telling them to do. The real danger is that there's at least 5 million hectares of extra production in Brazil coming, in the crop that's being planted right now. That's 12.5 million acres. We suspect it's going to be 10 million hectares, which is 25 million acres. We only put out 91 million acres of beans, so do the arithmetic here.
Yeah.
We're looking at early numbers of 140 to 145 million tons coming out of Brazil for beans. So, the game is afoot. You got to be real careful. Everybody's planting. We're going to see who buys it. The export numbers for China are coming in a bit weaker year over year, but that's expected because they really came after, the 2020 crop when it was brand new and they were coming out of summer and rebuilding their hog herds. But they're running behind, the rate they really should be buying. So whether they're playing politics or they've got their fill, who knows? But, some of the real smart guys I talk to, we think that China loaded up because they're going to play games with Taiwan. And based on what we're seeing, that is really not a bad assumption to make. And that'd be very dangerous to play saying, well, beans are going to stay at $13, $14 because China could just say, we're done. And then, the next trade is 12. So, and they're not beneath doing that either. So the world is, after this Afghanistan debacle, the world is getting much more dangerous and the politics are getting much nastier, especially of Russia and China with Afghanistan. So it's going to be very interesting to see. You got to be very careful what you do, and just don't get married to anything, especially on the upside, until the fundamentals confirm it.
Okay. So for making decisions for the 2022 crop year, like what to plant, perhaps doing some hedging out in the out years, what are your thoughts on what farmers should be thinking about for those decisions?
It was interesting. On the charts this week, we had November 2022 blew through resistance. And what that means is that it is starting to act on its own. So, plus it was a little bit stronger, but that could only be about the spreads, because once spreads move and you're out 12 months, Nov goes like this, and you say, oh, red November is like really good, but actually what it did was just move 10 cents in the spread because somebody had to move a unit back there. But at any rate, the numbers are out there. You got to start penciling in. What I'd be more concerned about is what are your input costs? Yeah. I mean, natural gas is just not giving up. There is something wrong in Russia. There's something wrong. They are cutting back, this stuff to Europe by 50%. The gas on the pipeline, and they said they're going to try to do some builds, but yet what are they going to do if we have a real winter over there in Europe? It's just going to be like in the Middle Ages. So, well, we'll see about that. But, we got, nat gas is running. Because of that, nat gas is at all-time highs in Europe. So the other thing is that, Ida, shut down the wells. As it was coming through, they shut them down to get off the rigs. And so, it's a good stiff 450 bid now. And I remember when I thought you should just buy it at 180. And they just kept selling. And that was like 6-7 months ago. And now we're looking at, 2.5 times that and heading north. But that also is going to make your fertilizer go. The Gulf getting hit, which is where, the nat gas pipelines come out for, CF Industries and the big fertilizer, generators. So just make sure you know what your fertilizer costs and everything are going to be before you're ready to get locked in. But it's really weird that it's almost like stagflation, where you're looking at $14 beans and you say, oh, that's great, beans are up 25%, but your input costs are up 25. So
so that margin,
it's all about the margin, as you well know, with our finance degrees. But you really got to watch that. Things are getting really, really, really interesting. Politics are getting very, very nasty, not just in the United States, but overseas, especially Russia and China are playing incredible hardball right now to test out the mettle of Biden and his crew. Okay. So otherwise, the oils keep moving. Canola, it looks like it's nailed to $9 or 900, Canadian dollars a ton. So, I mean, it's just, this stuff just doesn't give up at this moment.
So any things to keep an eye out in the next week or two?
Well, we got WASDE coming up, of course. Baltic freight, the rates from here to China and China to here keep skyrocketing. Okay. So they have not stopped. So it's going to be a very long Christmas for a lot of kiddies who want their plastic junk from China under the tree. Because they're not certain they can get it out. And it's going to take probably 2-3 weeks to get Ida cleared out of New Orleans and the early upriver stuff. They got a few barges that got grounded, up and down the place. So figuring that out. But the real key is that huge Cargill elevator down there in Louisiana is out of commission, which is like wow. So, and I mean, you've seen these big elevators like in Chicago. It's like 10 times that size. Yeah, there's a lot of bushels moving through there. Yes. Or should be. Yeah. So, all right, well, thanks, Q. That's all for this week's Crop Demise Hedge Report.